All right, these are 4.3 notes graphing using intercepts now. So we're going to talk about the definitions, and before we do that, I just want to talk about what an interception is in football. Think about what an interception is. The quarterback is throwing to their receiver, and somebody else on the defense, the other team, snatches the ball in midair and takes off the other direction. It's intercepted the line that the football was flying through the air towards the receiver. That's the idea with intercepts on a graph. I have my line traveling on my graph, and where it crosses the y-axis, this y-axis is intercepting the line. So there's my y-intercept, and I know that x is 0. I didn't go left or right, so x is 0 anywhere on this y-axis. On my x-intercept, that's where it's crossing the x-axis. I know y is 0. I didn't go up or not down. Anywhere on this line, y has to be 0 if I want to be on that line. So to kind of fill in our definitions here, the x-intercept is the place where the graph crosses the x-axis, which is y equals 0. You always know y is 0 if you're on the x-axis. And the y-intercept is the place where the graph crosses the y-axis. And x is always 0 in that spot. Now remember, you can always pause the video if you need to, if I'm going too fast for you. We're going to move down to example 1, which is finding the intercepts. And we're going to use this y is 0 and x is 0 to help us to do this. So here's an example, and they give us the equation 8x minus 2y equals 32. And you can notice here that this is standard form. This is standard form. So graphs aren't always in slope-intercept form, and when they're not in slope-intercept form, you have to change them into slope-intercept form to help you graph. Well, if they give us an equation in standard form, we can actually graph using the intercepts. So that's what we're going to be doing in this lesson. So in this one, I'm first going to look for the x-intercept. So I'm going to give this a title of x-intercept down here where they have their work. And if I'm looking for the x-intercept, I know y equals 0. So here's kind of my heading for the work down there. It says substitute 0 for y and solve for x. So here's the equation, and instead of y, I'm going to write 0. Well, anything times 0 is 0. So what I'm left with is just 8x equals 32. And then you can divide both sides by 8. I'm kind of ignoring their boxes there. And x equals 4. So we substituted 0 for y, and we solved for x, and x was 4. So that's the x-coordinate, and the y-coordinate is 0, so this would be at 4, 0 on my graph. Now to find the y-intercept, I'm going to give my heading here again, y-intercept x equals 0. So we substitute 0 for x and solve for y. So there goes my 0 where the x was in the equation. This is gone, and I'm left with negative 2y equals 32. Divide both sides by negative 2. And y equals negative 16. That's the y value. The x value is 0. So this would be the coordinate 0, negative 16 on the graph. So we substituted 0 for x, and we solved for y. So the y-intercept is negative 16, just to fill in their boxes there, and the x-intercept, remember, was 4. Okay, so let's kind of do this one on the next page. We're going to do one more example together here. So this is in standard form. It asks me to find the intercepts of the graph. So I'm going to kind of give my little headings there. So x-intercept, y equals 0. Now, I know that anything times 0 is 0, so this is going to cancel right out, so I'm just going to write 2x equals 18, divide both sides by 2, x equals 9, and I could write that as the coordinate 9, 0. If I'm looking for my y-intercept, I know x is 0. If I'm on that y-axis, I didn't go left or right. Plug 0 in. That disappears, and we're just left with 3y equals 18. Divide by 3, y equals 6. So that's the point 0, 6. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, do number 2, and then I'll show you the x and y intercepts. So the x and y intercepts, you should have gotten negative 3, 0, or x equals negative 3. And the y-intercept was 0, negative 9, or y equals negative 9. All right, so once we find the intercepts, we can just plot them on the graph, and now we don't have to change the slope-intercept form. This is kind of the beauty of graphing using intercepts. So they give us an equation in standard form, and we're going to find the intercepts to help us graph. So, kind of filling in my solution here. Step 1, find the intercepts. I'm going to start with the x-intercept, and if I'm looking for the x-intercept, I know y equals 0, so I plug 0 in for y, and I'm left with 3.5x equals 14. So you have to divide both sides by 3.5. They didn't really give us room for work there, did they? And x equals 4 when you do that, so that's the point 0, 4, 0, 4, 0. Okay, when I'm looking for my y-intercept, you know x equals 0, so I plug 0 in for x. That just leaves me 2y equals 14. Divide by 2, and y equals 7, so that's the point 0, 7. All right, so here in step 2, they're summarizing what we just did there. The x-intercept was 4, so we're going to plot the point 4, 0, which is right here on your coordinate plane. All right, the y-intercept was 7, which is the point 0, 7, which is right there. And then you're going to use your ruler. Where'd my ruler go? You're going to use your ruler to make your line. And it's going steep and down, and it's really hard to tell how to check that now using the equation because it's in standard form. So that checking method we were doing before of steep and down and all that good stuff doesn't work as well. You can plug in other values. So for example, down here at the bottom, they say, why don't you take x equals 2 and plug it into the equation? So that's what I did here. I took x equals 2 and I plugged it into the equation, and I found out when I solved for y that y was 3.5. And there's the point 2, 3.5 on the graph. So that would be another way to check it. Okay. When x was 2, y was 3.5, it was on my line, so I kind of did another check to make sure it worked. Because remember, the line is all the different solutions. You can pick any value for x, but you'll want to make sure it's on your coordinate plane, otherwise you won't be able to tell. Okay, so now you're going to go ahead and do example 3 on your own. Skip the next step, or sorry, checkpoint number 3. Okay, so skip this guy, do the next one down below on your own, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like. All right, so here's my work. The x-intercept is when y equals 0, so it's 7, 0, and 0, negative 2, and there's my graph. All right, so let's slide back up to example 3 now. It says identify the x and the y-intercept of the graph. Well, this is like cake work. So it's right on the, where it's crossing the x-axis and the y-axis. So the x-axis is right here. That x-intercept is at negative 2, 0. And my y-intercept is right here, which is at 0, 2. Okay? That's all you had to do. So go down and look at example 4 down there. Pause the video and go ahead and do that one. All right, and here's your answer. The x-intercept is at 1, 0. The y-intercept is at 0, 3. You're just looking at the graph to find the two places where it crosses. All right, so you're off in your packet to why did the rug roll up around his girlfriend? Interesting.